Welcome and thank you all for accepting our invitation to join us for this event today. The Gozo Business Chamber, in collaboration with Agenzia Zaza, Bank of Valletta, Europe Direct Gozo, the Gozo Regional Development Authority, and the Ministry for the Economy, European Funds and Lands, is organizing the 5th edition of the Youth4Entrepreneurship Gozo. The scope of this event is to encourage potential young entrepreneurs to share new and innovative business ideas which are directly relevant to the island of Gozo. The overall goal of this initiative is to direct attention to the economic potential and challenges facing the island of Gozo, while encouraging young people to take an innovative approach to develop their business ideas, based on Gozo's needs and potential. We are very excited today, and I welcome the panel of business experts who will be asking questions and giving their feedback on the business ideas that will be presented today. To this end, I welcome Simon Schembri, Mark Cicluna Bartoli, and Mario Borch. Simon Schembri is Manager Community and Outreach Youth Work Services at Agenzia Zaza. Mark Cicluna Bartoli is Head, Product Management and Development Business Banking at Bank of Valletta. Mario Borch is the Chief Executive Officer of the Gozo Regional Development Authority. I remind everyone of the criteria on which the proposals that have been submitted will be reviewed. Principally, applicability to the gazetting context, innovative approach, ability to solve a potential problem or to cater for a specific need, and the quality of the pitch. This year's Youth4Entrepreneurship contest will focus on spaces for youths. The theme for this year's event emerged from the discussions that happened. These discussions were held among last year's participants. The term space is being used as this is not defined by a physical or fixed location, but is defined by the interactions that occur within it. In Gozo, the lack of spaces or places where youth can have fun and relax are very limited. To this end, youth are being invited to present their ideas on the subject. For all of you who are participating here today, please feel free to post anything related to today's event on Instagram or Facebook with the hashtag Y4EGozo. I would now like to invite Michael Gallia, Vice President of the Gozo Business Chamber, to make his introductory speech.
Dear all, welcome. It is with pleasure that I am introducing this Youth4Entrepreneurship Gozo event today. First of all, I would like to thank our partners, Agenzia Zaza, Bank of Valletta, the Gozo Regional Development Authority, and the Ministry for Economy, European Funds, and Lands for their support. As Vice President of the Gozo Business Chamber, it is truly an honor to welcome each and every one of you today to celebrate not just the potential of our youth, but also the vibrant spirit of entrepreneurship that is the lifeblood of our community. Today, we come together not merely as spectators, but as active participants in the shaping of Gozo's socio-economic landscape. Our island is based with a rich heritage, a unique culture, and a resilient community, but it is the dynamism of our youth that propels us into the future. As we now face unprecedented challenges and opportunities, it becomes imperative that we harness the creative energies of our young minds. Entrepreneurship is not just about starting a business, it's about a mindset, a way of thinking that embraces innovation, risk-taking, and resilience. It's about turning challenges into opportunities and transforming dreams into reality. Today's event is a testament to our commitment to nurturing this entrepreneurial spirit among our youth. providing them with the tools, knowledge, and networks necessary to flourish in an ever-evolving economy. As we embark on the exciting evening, let us all commit ourselves to foster a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in Gozo. Together, we can empower our youth to shape the destinies and contribute actively to our community. Today's event would not have been possible without the support of our partners and the participation of the youth that will be presenting their ideas today. These kind of partnerships show that we all have a common goal, which is that of fostering youth entrepreneurship. This is not enough. We need to do more, and that can only be possible with the involvement of each and everyone who is present here today, and also those youths who have the potential but are not aware that such opportunities are available. I urge other institutions to participate in this journey in the future. Thank you for being part of the Youth4Entrepreneurship in Gozo event. May this evening inspire, educate, and ignite the entrepreneurial spark within each and every one of you.
I would like to thank Michael Gallia for his intervention. Now we would like to introduce Simon Schembri, the manager of Agencia Zaza, to make his intervention.
Thank you, and I wish all a nice evening to you. On behalf of our CEO, I would like to thank once again the Gozo Business Chamber for this initiative. I think it's one of the unique initiatives for young people where they can experience the idea of pitching an idea, a business idea, and more so is focused on Gozo, which is a bit of a more challenge to come up with such a pitch focused. Also, an interesting and this was already mentioned, the concept of innovation. I think one of the criteria to be an actual entrepreneur is to have this the idea of identifying a problem, identifying an issue within our communities, within our society, and coming up with a business to address that need. And before we started, I was speaking with Daniel, and each time when we meet up, he comes up with a different kind of team. And each time myself and my colleague would tell him, it's a bit of a challenge. But then it's interesting because we provide the young people who are participating here tonight to think creatively, to analyze situation. And these are all skills that, irrelevant if they decide to pursue a career as an entrepreneur, or if they decide to work for a business or with the government, these are skills that they will be able to use. In fact, as Agencia Zaza, one of our main focus is that of providing opportunities where young people can participate to learn, and this is one of them. And here I would like to address tonight's participants, tonight's protagonists, to take this opportunity to also focus on the learning skills, on the skills that you will not learning, but you will be enhancing. I would say you started off with, as I said, with the analytical part, that you have to identify a problem, and then you had to creatively think and critically think of a solution. And already we had the opportunity to look at your briefs, and I'm curious to hear more about your ideas and concept, which I would rather say that the three of them are quite new and innovative to the local context. Another thing which I think was the hardest part, at least if I was in your shoes, that would be the hardest part, the financial part of making a business sustainable, and ensure that it can be sustainable over a period of time. So again, that would be interesting to look at. But lastly, I'm sure that tonight's pitch will be something you will remember for a long time. I'm sure that if you had clouds over your heads, there would be, I'm excited, I'm anxious, I wish I would be somewhere else rather than here, but you're here, and I wish you luck, and enjoy it, because I'm sure that you will, from this experience, you will remember for a long time. But I would invite you also, and this is not just the young people participating tonight, and this is something that, again, as Agenzia Zaza, we include in all our programs, is also reflect. Reflect on your experience, ask yourself what you did right, and where you can improve. Not necessarily focus on what went wrong, but where can I improve? And I would say this is included in all our projects, and here I would like to also thank our youth workers, especially Jennifer, who on a yearly basis, she's involved in meeting up with young people and delivering training, but also following up on them individually together with Daniel. Once again, good luck, and well done for the Gozo Business Chamber for taking up this initiative and having it run for the 5th time. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I leave the floor to the first pitch. May I remind all contestants that you have 10 minutes to present your pitch. Another 10 minutes will be allocated to the panel of business experts to make their questions. I now invite Joseph, Mariah, and Sandy to present their idea, Next Gen Express, on behalf of Zaza Fontana.
Hi, so dear members of the panel, dear guests, audience, my name is Joseph Merchia, and here are my colleagues Mariah and Sandy, which together we are here to present an idea of a space for youths. Sometime or another, all youths, some of us have experienced being a youth not so long ago, and others are still living this reality. We all try to experiment, to gather information, to try new things, but more importantly, we ask a lot of questions. Some of the questions that us youths might have considered in some time in their life would be, for example, how do I know which is the best group to attend piano lessons or other creative arts? Who do I call to help me form a startup company? Another question might be, which is the perfect course? Which is the perfect school? When is the perfect opportunity for me to pursue my career? Another question might be, how do I write my CV? How do I fill my taxes form? And a million of other questions that youths might sometime or another ask. Often, there might be limited opportunities for us youths to ask and get the questions. Sometimes there are a lot of opportunities, and us youths, we don't know where to start, or we don't even know that these opportunities exist. And here comes our idea. This is how the idea came up. So, we are thrilled to present our innovative concept, an innovative concept that taps into the dynamic world of the teenage life. And we called it the Next Gen Express. It's a one-stop shop for youths. It's a bus which will be equipped that will travel from one locality to another. Some of you might ask, but why a bus? And what's so special with this type of bus? a bus offers flexibility for us to travel from one locality to another. And what we intend to do is to provide a youth center that is flexible, that can go from one village to another, from one locality to another. The bus will consist mainly of two youth workers who will be recruited either by a government call or through social media, where these youth workers will be present in this bus to be there to receive questions for youths to come by and ask questions and try to offer responses. When I say try to offer responses, these youths can be those that refer these adolescents or youths to other services that exist, that some of us might not even know that they are there. So, the bus will be operating weekly. So let's say the first week it will be in Arp, for example, the second week it will be in Lawrenz. The idea that this will be an afternoon service. It will be after school. It's from 4 till 7. That time is ideal for even youth workers to try to do some overtime, for example, and by that initiative and by that way, we can sort of attract youth workers who are experienced and that they can provide this service with youths. We intend to collaborate with youth centers and local councils. Why is this? The local councils will be those persons that will give the ideal area for this bus to be parked there. They will provide electricity, for example. And youth centers will be there to advertise and even suggest things that can happen in the bus. Another important aspect of this bus is that at the end of the week, there will be an event that is organized especially for the youth of that locality. It will even be a way of advertising the service, because by that way, youths will be gathering near the bus and they will know more about the bus. It will provide also some financial income for us to continue operating. Another important thing that will happen with the bus is that during that week, we can be able to even provide informative meetings and lectures and courses. For example, let's say that during the localities week, most of the youths found that, for example, they want to know about business opportunities. During the next term of the bus being in that particular locality, a businessman can be invited and he can give an informative meeting for these youths. It can even be, for example, inviting a psychologist where he can provide one-to-one sessions for these teenagers. So now it's time to present my colleague Mariah, who will be explaining more in detail about the layout and the financial costings.
So, as you can see, this is the layout which he created of what the interior of the bus would look like. Basically, you can see that there are the desks where the youth workers will be working and where the teenagers will go and ask for any help that they might need. On the opposite side, there's also the hangout spot, which includes the bean bags, sofas, even a television, and also it will include a small kitchenette where anyone can go have some refreshments. And this is, as you can see, there is where the youth workers will be working. Now, moving on to the costs, we have estimated the furniture which we would need for the interior, which includes chairs, desks, the sofa, and the lights, for example, which came to a total of approximately 2,950 euros. There are also the appliances and the electronics, such as the laptops and the mobile phones, which will be used by the youth workers, that came to a total of 1,975 euros. Additionally, there are also the operational costs, which include monthly expenses such as the fuel and maintenance, the staff salaries, the yearly insurance, and also the internet payment. Additionally, we have also looked into what it would cost us to actually purchase the bus, which was roughly 30,000 euros, and also another 10,000 euros for the renovation of such bus. Now, if we would divide the cost which I mentioned into fixed and variable costs, the fixed cost would include the purchase of all the furniture and appliances, the purchase of the bus, renovation, and the insurance, which come to a total of 46,425 euros. Moving on to our variable costs, they are our monthly expenses, the fuel and maintenance, salaries, and internet payment, which came to a total of 1,435 euros. If we add both our fixed and variable costs, they would come to a total of 47,860 euros. Now, for funding, we have two plans. Since it is a public service, we are intending to reach out to the local government to provide the funds and resources that we will need for the bus, where, for example, the employees would be paid by the bus, and also where the operations of the bus will be held. This would fall under the jurisdiction of the Ministry for Education, Sports, Youth and Employment, or even Agencia Żgħażagħ. If this plan would not succeed, we would be applying for the Pilot Projects Fund, which is offered by the EU, which is we will try to ask for 75% of our costs, and also we would ask businesses for any partnership that they would like to have with us. So for other opportunities that we have are advertisements, which would be around 1,000 euros per month, where businesses can give us posters, attach stickers to the bus. There are also a subscription fee of 25 euro per month for each company that would be willing to work with us, and that would be a minimum of 18 companies. And also the activities organized by the youth workers. So rather than making a profit from our idea, we are looking to break even at the 5-year mark of our operations, and that's through at the advertisements on the bus itself, by the stickers or leaflets, partnerships, and also the subscriptions. The bus would sustain itself for the monthly cost that we would have. Now I would like to present Sandy, who will explain the timeline.
So for the timeline, there are various stages that we will be following. The first stage will include the funding applications, where we approach ministries, companies, and also agencies to gather the funding. Stage 2 will include the tenders, where we will be issuing the tenders for services and also the equipment needed for the bus. Stage 3 will include the issue calls on social media or government platforms, conducting interviews and recruit appropriate candidates. Stage 4 will be the renovations of the bus and installation of the new equipment. Stage 5 will then include information meetings with local councils, companies, and also persons that works with youth to provide them with information about the bus and also gather their feedback back. Stage 6 will be a trial run of the service for a month in 3 different localities. Stage 7 will be finalizing the service after evaluating the trial runs. Stage 8 then starts an advertising campaign with youth on social media and even schools. The stage 9 will include, which will be the last stage, the official opening of the bus. A schedule of the localities will be published and any other arrangements will be finalized. There will also be some difficulties. We might experience some delays in obtaining the funds that we require. There might be also delays in acquiring the necessary tools for our service. For example, the real arrival of the bus. The bus might not gain popularity immediately or as we anticipated. And also, there might be technical difficulties while setting up the hardware and also the bus. Also, there might be some changes in the way that we offer the service until the system has been gotten used to. The Next Gen Express is not just a business, it's a movement, a space where teenagers can truly be themselves and provide the best advice and information. We believe that with your support, we can take this concept to the next level and create a memorable experience for teenagers in our community. Thank you for considering our proposal. We are eager to discuss the Next Gen Express and its potential impact in more detail.
I now invite the panel to make their questions.
Well, first of all, well done. I love the way you structured it, and it's a really sweet initiative, which I must admit is addressing a niche. There is a niche for youth. So from your assessment, I liked it very, very much. I just maybe have 3 areas of questions. One, the services it is offering are very good services, but have you done sort of a bit of a competitive analysis in the market, what is happening, and who would you be competing with? Because I think some of the services you mentioned are already being offered, so sort of your differentiation, 1. 2, I like the bus idea. However, I found there was a very big gap in the way you're engaging with the youth. I didn't see sort of an omni-channel approach where you involve digital to bring them on board. Because sitting just with a bus, the idea is a good idea, but I think your communication channel to them is, you have a big channel which is missing. So I don't know whether you have explored that. Well done for the costings, well done for the potential income and your timeline. I have no questions on that, well done. Also, you looked at risks, very good. But you didn't present any mitigation measures, sort of how you would address those challenges and risks you're facing. So maybe those 3 areas, market, your competition analysis, digital, and mitigation measures.
So with regards to the market, there might be some services that do exist, but the difference between that and our idea is that it's a one-stop shop. We can even involve those services that exist right now, and we refer them to these services, like for example, companies when they will pay the €25 fee. That can be, for example, when there's a student of accounts who's searching for an internship, and we can involve a meeting with this company where the youth can apply
so you become a channel, not a competitor.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly,
understood you.
Exactly.
Very clear.
With regards to how are we going to attract these youths, apart from Instagram, social media, there will be also a website which there will be the list of activities, the list of localities, and the list of services that we have. Apart from that, during the advertising period, we are going to sort of go after the youths by going to those areas, through those places they actually live in, the school, which they spend more than 8 hours of their daily life there. There, the bus can be present. There can be career days, and the bus will be present there, and things like that. Obviously, the social media, it's a huge part of our campaign, because without it's speaking the language of the youths nowadays. Regarding the difficulties, there are a list of sort of things that we can anticipate and do. One of the main challenges is that we still have to test the waters with regards to how these services will affect the youth. For example, like the lack of staff will come during that trial period, during that trial area. Basically, that's the reason why there's a trial period, because there we will know if there's the need of more advertisement, if there's the need of more services, if there's a need of more youth workers, or if there's the need, if there's a niche for something to be further reducted in having something specific rather than having a large service like that.
So again, I like the idea. Actually, the bus you showed in your first slide, I had the opportunity of going on it and hearing the story behind it. So yeah, and in our case, in Malta's case, we haven't yet explored the bus idea. So well done for taking that up. And I think you're addressing it nicely as well in the idea of going to in different localities and meeting up with young people in their own space. I like the idea also that you mentioned, the idea of having different professionals coming in and meeting with the young people. And also it's interesting how you're looking at the idea of from one time to the next of following up on what you were saying. I have a couple of questions. What would be the fun element for the young people from the way the bus? I noticed that you use the internal part of the bus, but considering that in Malta we have and more specifically in Gozo, we have a nice weather. If you're considering also using the outer area of the bus, and the other aspect is if once a week is enough. So from what I understood, you would be say on Tuesday you would be visiting this locality and then another locality. What's the plan? Is it the plan of saying every Tuesday we're going to be in this locality, so young people also get accustomed to the bus being there on a regular basis?
So with regards to the frequency, it will be a whole week from Monday to Friday, so that it will provide opportunity. But if it's, for example, in one locality, it doesn't mean that a student from another locality can visit. The frequency comes also into part in the trial and after those 5 years, because if there's the need that there should be another bus, for example, or less days in the locality, so that the bus visits the localities more frequently, that will help us as well. With regards to why we chose a bus and why we chose to use the interior part of the bus, it's basically for 2 reasons. One, to allow for the privacy of our youth, and to offer a space where they can even come by, develop ideas, have a little bit of fun there, and even during the activities, that's where we are going to use the outer part of the bus during these events. That will obviously happen inside the bus. What I don't know if you saw from the layout as well, there's a small kitchenette, which can even offer not a catering service, but a place where these teenagers can come by, cook something, for example, and even showcase it to the locality, for example.
So I think it's my turn now. I will start by making reference to the last part of the presentation, where you said that it's not just a business, but it's a movement, if I remember well. And I think it's a good idea. But before expanding on this one, I should have said this before. I like the way you delivered the presentation, all of you, and the details that you got into the presentation. Going back to the idea of not being just a business, but also it's a movement. It links also to the concept of using a bus. I have mixed feeling about this. It sounds nice because it's quite like innovative. It's something like out of the box, but for like everything else, there's a cost with it, and even you have showed that there's a capital a cost involving in purchasing the bus and all of the other stuff. So my question here is, did you consider that before going or exploring the idea of purchasing a bus and using a bus, you use, for example, the premises of the local council? So, all right, the bus, it enforces the message of outreaching for the youth and stuff like this. I understand this, but in considering the cost, I think it would be good to consider also at first, at least, making use of some other infrastructure like the local council. So this is the first question. And the second question is about the revenue. You seem to go towards the direction of having support from local government or the central government or through some other agencies, and I got the impression that it is just an afterthought, trying to raise revenue through activities. You mentioned activities, but it was like I got the impression of an afterthought. And I think here there's some opportunities, not just in terms of using this experiment, so to speak, to advise, but also to give information. For example, there might be opportunities at EU funds where, for example, you link them with the decarbonization efforts, for example. So you are outreaching to youths towards this march for decarbonization of the island.
Okay, so
Just to remind the contestants that you have 2 minutes left to conclude. Thank you.
So I'll do this very quick. So with regards to the premises, yes, we have explored of using the premises, but one of the main problems is when it comes to local councils, not all local councils have the facilities to operate. Unfortunately, most of the local councils just meet once monthly, which is a very short time for us to sort of plan of actually using the infrastructure. It can be a very good idea when we have bigger groups. For example, when doing the courses and when doing the informative meetings. Yes, we intend of using those halls, those things, but to be more flexible, a bus might be better, because you can be in Sannat now, and then in an hour you can be at sixth form, for example, giving a lecture or even welcoming students there. With regards to revenue and things like that, the funds will be there just for the fixed costs. When it comes to the variable costs, we intend of having a revenue from subscriptions, from even using the bus to advertise other businesses, like the buses that we have right now. They have stickers on them, and those generate a lot of revenue. For example, 700 euros for 1 month to have the backside of the bus portraying something. We can use that to gather more revenue. If the idea succeeds, we can even have a lot of companies that have this 25 euro fee, which can use this as a portal for them to gather interns, for them to, when students come by and they search for a job, they can acquire interviews from there. Another idea that popped up in our mind as well was the use of an application, like, let's say, free hour and things like that. This bus can have this sort of monthly fee where the companies can be portrayed, youth companies can be portrayed on this type of app that is linked to the bus, and then they can apply for certain courses and things like that can be given onto the bus.
Thank you. I now invite Casey Caruana and Enzo Giordanello to present their idea, Community Co-op Farm.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed and honourable guests and judges, good evening and thank you. I want to take you on a journey. Take your mind to a green and verdant, lush land without cranes, high-rise buildings, without cars or dust, without noise pollution or overpopulation. Instead, I want you to picture an open, bright, colourful, rich, vibrant, and enticing land where the only sounds are the whisper of the wind carrying sweet birdsong to your ears as you hear the gentle lapping of the waves upon the coast. What I'm asking you here is to imagine a verdant, a green, an environmental, and an eco Gozo. Now, I understand that this may seem like a distant, far-off dream lost in the past, but that doesn't need to be the case. What if I told you that this can still be our reality? And not only that, but we don't need to drag ourselves back by a century to achieve this. Instead, this goal, this dream, will be a step towards our future. This is where our idea comes in, our proposal. As Mark Zammit said, the biggest issue that young people currently face in Gozo is environmental protection. They're asking for more trees and more green spaces. However, our idea will not only provide such a space for youth, but also for the whole community at large, the entirety of our society. This will enable them to interact, socialize, become involved in a community effort, and access green and open spaces firsthand. Our communal community farm will aim to be powered by volunteers, generate ecotourism, and lift and enable all members of our society, rich and poor, old and young, to access free, fair, and sustainably sourced food. Our crops and the land will be cultivated using the principle of permaculture and biodiversity, where we will regenerate previously unused and desolate land into arable land, capable for providing for the whole community. We want to nurture the growth and harmony not only of the land, but also of society at large, since at heart the two are inseparable. Volunteers will help the farm grow. They will provide assistance in growing crops, in feeding the animals, in creating cheese, and producing other such agricultural resources. Based on their contributions, volunteers will be allowed free access to these goods and the final products. We will also host and invite speakers and local professionals to teach lost local arts, such as possibly Maltese lace or traditional Goziton cheese. We could also, as we hope, expand into the production of sustainably sourced extra virgin local Goziton olive oil, or even a small winery. Using these core principles, we want to not only engage our community, but also engage tourists. One of the potential means of obtaining funds for this project would be to partner with a local eco-tourist company. For a nominal fee, tourists will be able to tour the farm and participate in these activities hosted by speakers and local professionals. In addition, schools will be able to partner with us, and students may complete For example, their SOK projects, or the younger primary students will be able to learn about Gozerton heritage and how it's being applied in the modern day. Visitors will also be able to access a small on-site shop providing these local goods, as well as hopefully selling any surplus resources that volunteers have not been granted access to be able to be sold at local rural farmers markets. We hope that with your support, we can bring this vision into a reality, providing and enabling Gozo to fulfill its true potential as a rural, green, and harmonious land. I'll now hand over to Casey to present the facts and figures of the project.
Okay. So, in Gozo, there is about 2,449 hectares of utilized farmland. And according to the Gozo Regional Development Authority, about 2,600 is from either rented from the government or with private partnerships, which is two of the paths which we would like to take to be able to implement our idea. And of this small amount of land, only 396 hectares are used for permanent crops, and 162 are used for kitchen gardens. We are living in a society now where everything is really fast-paced, and with this can come negative effects for our mental health. We are stuck indoors, we don't get to see much or connect much with nature, but the garden will help people to be able to learn about nature and to increase their mental well-being. This is scientifically proven. And one of the big issues which may affect the farm in the long run is climate change, as crops may not grow. And in training our youth and educating them about the impacts that they are having on the environment and how to properly look after it, we can help to be part of the solution for this issue. One of the requirements for our prompt was that our idea is safe. Now, what isn't going to be safe about a community garden? Everyone coming together, learning how to grow the proper food, what's good for them, and the environment itself can include proper training, and we can buy proper, safe equipment for people to use. We also want it to be accessible, so people with disabilities, such as people in wheelchairs, we can add ramps, for example, to allow them to access the farm as well as everyone else. People, whether they are poor or rich, will be able to work on the farm, to volunteer, to donate, and we will be able to educate everyone, no matter their background or age, about the environment. We hope to make this farm as sustainable as possible. We will save both money and the environment by using sustainable energy such as solar power, reusing water, and using compost from, for example, food that's been wasted, left behind. It will go back into the garden to help fresh produce grow. And we would include a soup kitchen to help people to volunteer firstly and to give to the poor, and so everyone can have access to fresh organic food. It will be youth-focused, and there will be youth markets, which is basically marketing that is targeted towards youth. We would integrate technology and communicate properly with the youth and advertising. And we can partnerships with school, as Enzo mentioned, for sock projects, for example. Youth can come and grow it in the garden and add that for their project. Now, how would we implement this? First, we must acquire land. How will we do this? As I mentioned before, we would either lease government land, which would come at a cost, or we can partner with a private agritourism company, such as Tutor, which would save cost on land. And, well, and then, secondly, we would get funding. There are heaps of funding opportunities in the EU and Malta. So we have the government-owned, the European Agriculture Rural Development Fund, which finances the EU's contribution to rural development programs, the Common Agricultural Policy, which supports the farming sector in the EU, the Malta Development Bank, which contributes to sustainable economic development that benefits the Maltese people, and the European Investment Bank, which lends to banks such as these, and the Gozo Action Group, which is basically a group of local councils which come together to improve the quality of life in Malta and Gozo. Then we would have to construct the farm. The equipment at first would be quite expensive, as you can imagine. But say, if we use sustainable technology, in the long run, we will be able to save money. We will be able to reuse water, resources, land, soil, everything will be self-sustaining, pertaining to the rules of permaculture. And then we can advertise, collect farmers who can teach people about Gozo lace, culture, farming. Even ourselves, we know quite a bit about it, and we can volunteer. And then we would spread the word, and we will start growing the garden until finally everyone's free to take their share of crops. And possibly in the future, we can integrate animals, which are great for mental health, and a kitchen. A source of income which we thought of would be ecotourism. We would probably have a package of around 25 euros, say, and these tourists are free to come and explore the gardens, pick olives, play with the animals, learn about Gozo culture. Animal products, just say there's milk, eggs, there's extra, there's plenty to go around. We can resell those in a little store, in a little shop that's organic. And we can possibly get donations for people willing to help the poor. One of the main difficulties is that there's very few agritourism companies in Gozo, so entering into a partnership may be difficult. It may be hard to access. Obtaining permits may be trouble, and because organic food generally costs more than what you would buy in the shops, people may not be as open to buying. So that concludes my speech. Thank you.
Thank you for presenting your idea. I now invite the panel of judges to make their questions, and I remind you that we have 10 minutes allocated for this section. Thank you.
This time I start, and I try to be very short. I like the way you presented with a lot of energy, so well done on this one. And I also liked the fact that you made a lot of reference to our work and that you read the discussion paper on the region in agriculture issued by the GRDA. So that's a plus too. My question is whether you considered, instead of owning land, to try to invite landowners, because to participate in a sort of a scheme. So instead of like trying to first acquire land, which costs money and complicates things. So I think the idea could also be a package and presented like a sort of inviting landowners to participate in these activities that you have presented. So this is the first question. And the second question is about the management structure, because I haven't heard about it, how this cooperative will be working, who and how decisions will be taken, and things that at the end of the day are also important to consider.
So, first of all, thank you. With regards to farmers joining a scheme, we would be very open if farmers were willing to collaborate with us on this scheme in a cooperation. The whole point of it is collaboration, cooperation, and a community spirit. So 100% we're open to that, should they wish to volunteer in that capacity. With regards to executive decisions, being that in our case we would be putting up the initial funds, we would hold executive final decision, but we would wish to again foster that community spirit and continue down this road of all working together. So those with a stake in the land would have a vote with a body of directors. So decisions will be passed by vote with those who have an interest in the land and those who have been brought on as full-time or significantly part-time contributors to the project. So it would be a democratic board with should there be a split decision, and if nothing's passed on the second vote, then we would have a equal executive role.
So I like the way you introduced your plan and the journey you took us on. I have a couple of questions. I feel you were sharing a lot of different ideas of how you're going to go about. You mentioned the soup kitchen, the crops, and also having people learning how to cultivate vegetables and doing. So, is there a gradual way how you're looking at it? How you're going to sort of like, it felt too many ideas. So I think one, and the other aspect was, and I know that towards the end you made reference to young people, but how do you intend to involve young people? Are the young people the volunteers themselves? Is it there's a wider idea of how you're going to engage young people in this initiative?
Okay, so basically our idea is for our community farm to grow as the community grows, basically. We would start with small things like crops, and as we start making a bit of profit, we can start to afford things like animals until we get enough funds to reach the next stage, the soup kitchen, for example. So I hope that answers your question. And for the next one, we wish to involve youth through their participation in volunteering and through school, And the fact that this can be just a place where they come, connect with nature, socialize with other youths who may also be interested in gardening or hanging out with animals.
We would hope also to collaborate with local councils. Our main objective would, of course, we would want the youths to come on at their own initiative, where we would make animals a second priority in a suppressed number because of the mental health benefits, for example. We really want to work towards that. First of all, green spaces, second of all, animals for mental health. We will also prioritise the soup kitchen because of the poor, as well as next following on with the ecotourism, since that is going to be an essential financial benefit. Later on, should things successfully progress, then we would look towards the lace, the olive oil potential fabric production with cotton plants or wool. But they would be our main priorities, and we also, of course, hope to involve local councils as well, and through there engage with youth.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I must say, you have a very bold and ambitious vision, and it's something I would have loved to do. And every time you were mentioning an initiative, I was costing it, and if you were to have the land today, and you were given a small sum of money, let's say 20,000 euros, can you give me your first thing you would do? Because you have overwhelmed me with things you want to do, completely overwhelmed me, and in a sense, they are all very good initiatives, but obviously you have to prioritize. So here I'm giving you a situation where you have a limited amount of funds to kickstart the idea. Which would be the first thing you would do, so that then I understood you would bootstrap the company and the income you get from your first initiative feeds into the next one to grow the next one, which is a good idea, and I understood it. But what would be your first initiative?
For me, personally, my first initiative would be progressing in the same way my garden at home progressed. We'd start with a small herb patch, as well as a small vegetable garden. Basic crops, potatoes, broad beans, and tomatoes, all very good, decent staples of Maltese agriculture. An olive tree, a fig tree, they're reliable, they grow well, they're sturdy. These will be our first basic crops. With the herbs, with the potatoes, with the tomatoes, we could already make a minestra in the soup kitchen. The kitchen doesn't even need to start with the kitchen on premises. We can make the meals ourselves, and we can transport them to those who are in need via collaboration with local councils. Second of all, as soon as possible, we'd start with a small flock of chickens. Chickens are great producers. Not only do they provide us with compost readily available, but they're also, they have a homeostasis with the land. They will weed out pests and bugs whilst irrigating the land and churning over the soil to keep it fresh, as long as within remits we make sure they're not too destructive. They provide eggs almost daily. There would almost certainly be a surplus of these to sell free range at a relative premium with regards to sales, but of course they are a great thing to give away to the volunteers for the first time as well, and there would guaranteed be a surplus to sell. Third of all, I was born in England, so I grew up with feeding the ducks. We'd build a small pond, we get a few ducks. It's fantastic for mental health. The ducks, again, provide the same function as the chickens. Their eggs are more nutrient-rich, and they would be a great thing for not only youth, but also for all members of our society to engage with, to interact in, and many ducks can very easily and quickly become humanized, friendly, petable, and you can feed them.
Do you have a background in sciences?
A background only for a year. Aside from helping out at home, of course, with the garden and our small holding, I've been a volunteer first aider for the past year. I'm a couple of weeks away from completing a diploma in advanced first aid, and I'm currently, after completing A-levels in the humanities, that being English and history, I'm currently this year studying biology as well, too, with the ambition of progressing on a nursing course
No, the idea I asked is because the synergy between the chickens, irrigation, and the fund works perfectly. Then again, you started expanding beyond and getting the ducks on board. So try and contain the thought into a box, grow it, and then bring something on again. But yeah, I think I would have started with exactly the same approach. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Daniel and Lara Sultana to present their idea of Study Cafe.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Sultana, and this is my sister,
Lara Sultana.
and we're going to working or no? We're going to explain our idea of a study cafe, which is a youth space where concentration can meet comfort. So the idea all came back in May of this year when we were studying for MathSec examinations, and it was always a struggle to study at home due to the amount of distractions around you, the noise of construction and traffic passing by, and the regular inconveniences and noises of the house. So we would go out to cafes. However, although it would be convenient for the first hour and a half, you would have to keep buying items to stay there. Otherwise, you'd be taking like a usable space. So we would go to park benches in our local parks, and it worked. But the sun beaming down on you, the traffic passing by, and the insects crawling on you weren't really that nice.
So because of this project, we wanted to do a little bit of an analysis and a study about how many students would be interested in our project. From it, we discovered that 87.6% would either always use our cafe, sometimes, or often use it. And we'll explain the reasons why they decided for this option. So it is not just a study cafe. What is important to note is that we have a huge structure here. Apart from the cafe, which people can go in to eat and drink while they're studying, we will provide a stationery. So people who, I don't know, they have a pen and it ran out of ink, or they need that emergency past paper that they completely forgot about, they have a stationery right at their foot. So they just walk in and have all the supplies that they need. Apart from that, we are offering workshops. So companies, we're trying to target youth organizations here, can promote their sessions and teach students important life skills. So for example, to make it more accessible friendly, they would offer a life skill on learning difficulties such as dyslexia or dyscalculia, etc. As well as this, they can also teach sessions, for example, for sixth form students who will be going to university on how to live independently. Apart from this, we will offer a youth space where if students need to wind down after that studying, they can go to this youth hub of some sorts where we will provide board games and PlayStation and a bunch of other entertainments at a cost of €2 per day for every time they visit it. And then lastly, we know that students need a lot of technology nowadays to study. So this is why we're putting a lot of emphasis on a technology-friendly space. We're offering charging stations for students' laptops and high-speed internet. And for those students that cannot afford a computer or just cannot bring it to school, etc., there will be some computers available for them to use. So it is important to note that we know that there is a lot of competition. There is a lot of cafes. We are trying to target our location to be in Victoria, considering most of the schools are there, especially post-secondary schools. So I'm going to explain exactly how we are unique. First of all, students are actually not forced to buy from this cafe. I know it might shock you a bit, but I will explain later on how this can still be sustainable. Second of all, we are a very technology-friendly space, which means that there are computers that students can use for their research and for their homework. Not to mention that if they have something on the computer to print, they can go to the stationery, which is right next door. We are inclusive in various ways. First of all, we want to be disability-friendly, so we will offer many accessibilities, such as ramps for wheelchair users. Eventually, as profit kicks in, we will also make it dietary friendly. So for people who have gluten or lactose intolerances, we want to make sure that we are sustaining for them as well. We want to be eco-friendly, which means we want to offer sustainable products. We know that youth nowadays are very conscious when it comes to the environment, and we want to make it clear that we are too. So our cafe will produce these sustainable products, as well as the stationery and the other structures. And fourth of all, we are going to be youth-friendly. It is a youth space, after all. So when there is an exam period coming up, our opening hours are going to change from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. And in those 3 hours, there will be late-night study sessions, which will be conducted in groups that we will organize so that students can feel a bit more productive knowing that there are other people working with them. Fourth of all, we are a formal and informal learning space. What does this mean? So we are formal in the sense that, after all, we are promoting their education. We want them to continue moving forward through studying. But we're also an informal learning space in the sense that we want our youths to not just feel constricted to their studying. We want to make them feel a sense of community. We are going to promote this through events. So to wind down, except for the Youth Hub, there's also going to be events such as a karaoke night or a quiz night that they can attend. This will also be a very attainable sense of profit.
So I want to talk a bit about the membership card that's available. So as my sister Lara said, you can pay €2 every time to go and use the youth space, or if you come often enough and feel like maybe it's too much, €2 every time, you can buy the membership card, which is $7.99 a month, which we feel like is a fair price when you compare it to monthly prices such as Netflix and Spotify. And with this membership card, you get several benefits. So you get 10% off on all stationery you buy, so that's pens, printing, pencils, all of that. And you also get free access to the youth space, which is where you can de-stress, have some time off after a long session of studying. And through the survey that we did, the qualitative survey that we did, we interviewed 24 students, and they filled out a Google document form. And in fact, 70.8% of students actually said that they would buy the membership card knowing the benefits, and 29.2% might buy them. And we actually had 0% that said that they wouldn't buy them.
So to continue onto that, we want to also ensure customer loyalty. So we will offer a coffee punch card. So if people buy 6 coffees, the 7th one will be free. So it's just a little something to kind of push them forward into continuing coming to our cafe. We'll also offer weekly food and drink offers. It's a sort of bargain, which we know that students would like. And lastly, a really cool feature of our membership card are the discounts on organizations. So basically, this membership card will allow them access to many other organizations that are offering them discounts. So for example, a gym or a pharmacy and so on. We know that it is going to be a bit of a hefty work to do, but we do have a solution for that, which we will be explaining later on. But this way, we are not just promoting our cafe, but we're promoting students to other organizations.
So I want to talk about profit attainment. So as Lara said, it is a strange way that we're not charging students anything. They can come, use our space for free. And so there are several ways we can attain profit in order to cover those costs. So the first two are obviously the cafe and the stationery itself. So we will be offering coffees, drinks, smoothies, and also light nibbles so that you can re-energize and to fulfill the youth's hunger and thirst. And also the stationery where you can buy all your needs. Along with that, we also have an area where you can organize workshops and events. And this place is where organizations can rent the space and hold their lectures or meetings, or they can host guest speakers. And we can also do team nights, such as open mic, karaoke nights. And in the same survey, there was a question where we asked if they would attend these events, and 62.5% said they would, while 66.7% says that they would attend life skills and lectures made by guests. Now, along with that, it's the membership card, which also gives us profit, which is $7.99 a month, and the youth space, which is €2 every time you enter for people that don't come enough and don't feel like it's worth it to buy a membership card. They can pay €2 every time to go to the youth space and use it for 24 hours. And lastly, we have sponsorships. And this will be banners and posters that are available all around the room of companies that can pay us so that we can put their logo up there, their website, and we're sure that it won't take long to fill out these banners and posters.
So, costs. So we are planning that we will try to find an old space in Victoria, a central location where most schools are, as I mentioned before, and to renovate it. Of course, this is going to be a bit expensive, so we estimated a budget of €200,000, considering how much has to go into it, including the fact that it's not just a cafe, it's a stationery, it's a workshop area, etc. The important thing that we're focusing when it comes to costs, apart from everything else that is mentioned on the table, is that we want to really focus on promotion. After all, this is how we're going to get from that mark down to that mark up. So basically, when it comes to promotion, we know that youths nowadays tend to focus a lot on social media. Most, if not all, have a social media account. So we want to put a bit of promotion. It isn't that much of funding, but it will help boost a lot when it comes to coming to our cafe. Second of all is the partnerships with student organizations. When I was mentioning this before, I'm sure you had the question in your mind that, hey, they're purchasing a membership card and we're gaining profit, but these organizations are losing revenue because they're offering discounts, right? Well, the solution is that for the first 6 months, we'll be offering a contract where we will cover up that revenue. And then after that 6 months, if they realize the effectiveness of our membership card, which, as we mentioned before through statistics, that 0% said that they would not actually purchase the membership card. 58.3% said they would. So if they realize the effectiveness of this membership card and the fact that they are still making a profit and gaining many more customers because they realize these students have a discount, it should allow them to accept the contract after 6 months without us having to pay them for the remaining revenue. So, oh, and also, sorry, we will also offer promotional events. So for example, during Freshers Week in sixth form, we will do a little stand to promote our cafe.
So with such a large amount of money needed in order to fund such a place, we have several sources of funding. So our first one is, crowdfunding. With such an idea, which is so youth-friendly, it's beneficial for students and also young adults to come in and use it. We're sure that we can attain a good amount of money from crowdfunding and also through bank loans. Now, bank loans, obviously, we will pay them back over time. However, this will cover a large majority of the funds needed. And another source of funding is investors. So people can come invest in the company if they're confident in it, buy a percentage of our company, and therefore it will help us in order to go towards our goal of actually building and renovating the area. Now, those first three will be our main sources of funding, while the next two would be just to cover the final costs if need be, which would be our personal savings and also family and friends. And with family and friends and our personal savings, I'm sure that we won't have to use that much of it due to the other source of funding.
We also want to prioritize that when it comes to investors, we will try to focus a lot when it comes to student organizations or youth organizations in general, because we know that a space like this is quite useful when it comes to helping the youth's development. So I know you have a lot of questions, and we dedicated a slide to talk about these risks. So as I mentioned before, not everyone would want to purchase a product, right? Well, from statistics-wise, people said that even though the purchasing a product is optional, 58.3% said they would still purchase a product every time they attended the cafe. Apart from that, if you could give me a second. The other 41% said sometimes. So we actually have a 0% no rate. Of course, this is 24 students. There are many others. But from this group of students that we attended from different schools, including the University of Malta and the Gozo students that would come here during the week, and sixth form and secondary school, they said that they would still purchase a product, whether it's from the cafe or from the stationery. Apart from that, profit is not only relied on the cafe and stationery. We have many other sources of income. That is what makes us reduce these risk factors. We have the membership card. We have the workshop areas that student organizations can use to rent. We have the events that tend to give a lot of bonus when it comes to other companies. And of course, the advertisements on the banners. Apart from that, I myself, for example, need a very productive place, and I do need noise when it comes to studying. But I understand that there are students who cannot take that noise. They need a silent study area. So if they don't own a pair of headphones, for example, we are offering rooms dedicated to group work. So those who want to study individually have to respect the quiet time in the main area, and those who would rather need to do some group work or some assignments or whatever, there will be some rooms dedicated for that section. Lastly, I've mentioned it before, but it's just a little emphasis on how we are unique and how we are different from youth spaces. We're not just a cafe, we're a social setting. We are here to contribute to the youth's development. We want them to understand that it is not just studying there. We want them to feel a sense of cohesion between everyone. So there will be events, there's longer opening hours during exam seasons, we're offering computers for them to work on, and everything else that we've mentioned. That's us. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now I leave it to the panel of judges, experts, to make their questions. I need to remind you that there are 10 minutes allocated for this. Thank you.
So thank you, and nicely presented initiative. I have a few. The first one, I think you already answered it, but so from what I understood in Gozo, there's not such especially in Victoria, there's no such idea as having like a student hub place out of the premises where young people could have accounts. To mind comes, for example, at University of Malta, there's a place run by the Jesuits, if I recall correctly. So I'm curious about that, if there are other spaces similar to this. Another question about the space. Did you have a particular space in mind, and would you also explore the idea of maybe identifying entities, especially like, for example, a local parish church that might have a space which is not used anymore, and you could explore that. And lastly, one of the thing, and I think my colleague here will get into that. How you're going to make the project financially sustainable. If I understood correctly, you will be charging €2 each time they would come?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like you to maybe expand a little bit on that.
So regarding your first question, the one that I'm aware of is the youth hub in sixth form Gozo. But the thing is, they're open for specific days, which if I remember, is Tuesday and Thursday. Apart from that, I would spend my free lessons in McDonald's, sitting on a table because I know they wouldn't kick me out. So it's kind of a space for them to use. So of course, there's, I don't know, for example, youth parishes that would take students come, but it's during a specific time. We want to make sure that this is an open space for studying. Regarding the profit attainment, Yeah. Regarding the profit attainment, the €2 is for the game area. So most students, in fact, for example, the Youth Hub, they do offer that in the school, and they don't have to pay, but it is during a specific opening hours. Ours is constant throughout. It's kind of like an arcade, but they can use the games constantly. They have to pay €2 per day for each youth. Apart from that, we do offer the membership card, which is $7.99 a month. We have the workshops, so we're partnering with student organizations to gain income from that section, as well as, for example, the events. So obviously, most students would probably purchase more from the cafe when there is an event because they would want a drink or so on during that aspect. And of course, the stationery itself. So if they need those emergency supplies, we're also offering profit from that area. So in that sense, even though they are not obligated to purchase from the cafe, there are many different sources of income to avoid that risk factor. There was another question, if you don't mind repeating.
The other one was related to the space. If you had, you mentioned different sections to the space, so I'm imagining that you're looking into having a large space. and I was thinking also that if there's the possibility of identifying local entities that might have a space which at the moment is not used, and you could explore that if you know of any such space.
So the area that we would need, although it doesn't need to be too large, we can start off with something small which has everything that we've mentioned, but as time goes by and as we gain more profit and people get to know more about our cafe, we can expand on that. Now, the fact about contacting organizations, seeing if they have a space available, we can uptake that idea. The difficult part is to see if we can find one in Main Street, Victoria, right next to the school, because we cannot have it in another village. Otherwise, it would be inconvenient for the students to travel in between both. And so that was the main issue, was trying to find an area in Victoria where students can easily go from the school to the study area and back to the school if they need to, if they have a lecture.
Oh, all right. All right, my turn. First of all, well done for the presentation. I liked it very much, and I think it's a simple concept, but I think it's there's a gap in the market for it. At least my view, and also I liked how you also presented this concept and extended to a sort of a social community. So I think that was good. I also liked the fact that you did some research, for example, the survey that you showed. So in terms of trying to analyze the demand, you have always to take it with a pinch of salt, these sort of surveys and statistics. But I think the fact that you did it, I think it's a plus. In terms of the revenue that you would need to cover or generate some return on investment, maybe you can expand a little bit on this one, because as Simon said, we're talking about 300,000 capital expenditure or recurrent cost. I couldn't differentiate and have a distinction what is capital and what is recurrent, but my impression is that you would need some substantial revenue in order to generate some sort of return. So, and my question, my final question is whether you also consider, because the presentation focused on like sixth form students, because I guess you're coming from that background, but keep in mind that in Victoria there is a Queen Mary campus, and it has a number of students. These are university students and these are not local. So this cafe, I think you should also consider their needs. So they are older in years than you are, and they come from different backgrounds. So, and they are here on a permanent. They are studying here for 3 or 4 years. So if you could also tap into this market, I think it would be an opportunity for you.
So we primarily will focus on students, but the cafe is open to everyone. So even adults that need to do some work, not even necessarily studying, but have some work, and it's open to everyone from any background or culture. And although the idea is mainly student-centered, we accept anyone to come in the cafe and use it.
In fact, it helps when it comes to profit because we're just talking about students here. There will be adults as well who would want to purchase from the cafe. They're not there just to study. In fact, on the survey, we did a question where we asked from which school they were, and we suggested from many different aspects. So there's not just sixth form. We have from MCAS and even from MCAS Malta who are Gozo students. We have University of Malta who are Gozo students that come in the weekend. We have mature students and so on, and even ITS, for example. I think it's a good consideration to even think about, for example, the BART students or international students. So, yeah.
Seeing that you are sixth formers, you know exactly a market gap. And so well done, I must say. There's a clear market gap here. And you are trying to address it in not a very innovative way, but in a clever way, which is exactly what the youth want. They want a quiet space where to be able to sit down. I like also your business model, but I'm seeing flaws. You cannot give a space open for anyone to come and sit at their leisure, not giving them the obligation to buy something. Now, I understand the principle, because you have a student who wants to sit down and doesn't want to be obliged to pay, but this kind of model is going to basically have a place crowded with people, and the experience is going to be spoiled, and you are going to earn no income because the people who are going to come are going to be the ones who do not want to spend any money. You created a very clever business model where people have to buy a membership card. And I found it strange that you didn't block entry based on membership card, because then the business model starts to make sense, which means that you can come in, you do not need to buy anything as long as you show me your membership card. The membership card then starts to have real value. €7 might then actually be too cheap. So that is one dynamic where I think you presented really, there was just an absence of joining the dots, or maybe I didn't understand you. So that's one dimension to it. I liked it, there's just maybe some joining of the dots. Another point you mentioned was you are going to invest in computers. I ask you as youths, do you use your own computer in the McDonald's, or do you use McDonald's computer? I think you use your own, no?
Well, I didn't actually have a computer in sixth form, so most of the time I just have to write on paper, and then I would have to go home and write everything. And in fact, a lot of students can't actually, in sixth form specifically, a lot of students wouldn't actually bring their laptops. In fact, they would write on paper, like me, and then they would do it at home. So in this sense, if they have a free lesson, for example, they can go and type there on the computer, and they can save it.
Understood.
There.
No, you did address my question there, because you're addressing a certain cohort of the community, which is a very fair point, which potentially I have missed in my question. However, you might have certain issues with that kind of infrastructure. It's clever, it's right, and it's value added. But you might have some issues. But otherwise, from my point of view, I really liked it. It's a great initiative. I'm not going to go into the funding. The funding is another space. I think bank lending is an option. However, I think it would be difficult because you have to show a very strong revenue stream, which I think you could do, but you need to have different business models. So the business model of your membership card is very good. One business line income. You need an income from the cafe. You need an income from the stationery. And when you put them all together, you need to see where you are at the end of the year. Yeah? But as a concept, it is good. From a funding approach, the idea of finding a premise in an alternative space is a very good idea, because I don't think you want to stay incurring that capital cost initially. You want to pilot this idea. So I think a premise in a church, for example, is a very clever idea, I must say. And then you pilot the concept there. Yeah? So you do not incur a high capital cost. You try and crowdfund the basic stuff to get it going, and then try and bootstrap it, in the sense that the income you start to get, you reinvest it to grow it. Once you start that, then you can approach a bank for a bank loan, you understand me? At this current stage, I find it you would be a little bit too high risk from a business model point of view, because it's a new business model. The idea of membership in, not necessarily to buy, and it's clever, but you'd need to pilot it a little bit to show some figures before you go to a bank. Yeah? I don't know, please answer me or rebut, I'm open.
In terms of the difficulty with people coming inside and crowding the place and not buying anything, that is definitely a risk, but we feel like the youth, when going into a place such as when I go into a supermarket, I can't not buy anything. I see something that I like, I buy it. So if I'm going into a cafe, or the youth are going to a cafe, there is a great chance of them buying a drink, especially if they're seeing other people having certain drinks or having a smoothie or having food. And there's also the idea of the youth space. So if they're bored and they need something to do, they can go and they can use the youth space with their other friends. And the membership card is an actual physical card that you can use to get into the room, or later on in time, or once we start the project, we can also do a digital card in order to be more sustainable. But we will have the physical card just in case there are people who struggle to have a phone or not financially capable in those areas. And in terms of the computers, people can bring their own computers into the cafe and they can use them. They're more than welcome, but we also supply computers to those that may not have a computer at home or may not bring one. And that's why we have we have high-speed internet. We have a lot of outlets everywhere. So if you need to bring your own computer, you can, but you can also just bring a pen drive and work on the computers that we supply there. But thank you for the advice.
In fact, it was a really great suggestion, like the membership card. I agree with you.
You nearly convinced me on the free entry, because you are right. What you will have is a bustling place, right? And maybe that is exactly your selling position to then generate income. So what you've done is you've reversed it. It could work. The question is you'd need to pilot it. Yeah. But I like it, great initiative.
Thank you.
Today, no winner shall be announced, as the aim of the event is to instill confidence in the youth who participate. The winner will be announced on the 27th of November. I would now like to invite Ronald Sultana, Director, Tourism and Economic Development, to make his intervention on behalf of the Minister for Gozo, Clint Camilleri.
All right. Good evening to all. Unfortunately, the Honorable Minister for Gozo, Clint Camilleri, could not join us this evening because he's attending business abroad. So I will be therefore delivering this message on his behalf. Well, this evening's activity emanates from the constant pursuit by the Gozo Business Chamber to cultivate and foster entrepreneurship amongst youth in Gozo. Development of youth entrepreneurship is definitely an interesting concept, as in recent years we are gradually witnessing more youths taking authoritative steps to lead their own career path, especially in the information technology and digital sectors. In Gozo, this can also be observed. And there are examples of Gozo-based setups who have encouragingly expanded into mainland Malta and also abroad. As I mentioned, these are interesting times, and the innovative economic niches are attracting the hearts and the minds of our youths. Youth entrepreneurship has the potential to leave an array of positive impacts on our society, because entrepreneurship also instills a further sense of resiliency, ambition, and responsibility, amongst other qualities which are fundamentally key for societies and communities alike to further flourish. Entrepreneurship entails the pursuit of shaping one's own destiny, taking charge of your dreams, translating them into goals, and applying dedication and consistency to fulfill the objectives set. In past editions of the Youth for Entrepreneurship organized by the Gozo Business Chamber, I have seen and listened to interesting business and project proposals presented by the participating youths. Whilst I couldn't follow the presentations today, I am confidently ascertained that you all gave your best and most of all believed in what you presented. I sincerely thank you for participating and engaging in such activities that are created specifically for you. This leads me to thank the Gozo Business Chamber and all of those who collaborated to organize this evening's event. Special gratitude goes to the President of the Chamber, Mr. Joseph Borch, and Mr. Daniel Borch, CEO of the Chamber, for retaining the importance of the concept and sustaining this initiative each year. Once again, a good evening to all, and well done to all the participants, especially for the delivery, especially for your drive and commitment and your passion to showcase what you believe in. Well done, well done.
Thank you. I would now like to invite each of the participants to be awarded their certificate. You can come on stage. Thank you. Joseph, Mariah, and Sandy, on behalf of Zaza Fontana. Casey Caruana and Enzo Giordanella. Lara and Daniel Sultana. Thank you and well done to all the participants. I would now like to invite Daniel Borch, CEO of the Gozo Business Chamber, to make his concluding remarks.
Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Let me start by saying a big thanks to our partners on this initiative, Agenzia Zazach, Bank of Valletta, the Gozo Regional Development Authority, and the Ministry for the Economy, European Funds and Lands, and also overall because the Ministry for Gozo supports us throughout the whole year as well. So big thanks, because without our partners, nothing of this would be possible. I would also like to thank our members of our evaluation panel, Mark Cicluna Bartoli, Simon Schembri, and Mario Borch. I'm sure that they surely had a difficult task today. Thanks also to Jennifer Kauke from Agenzia Zazach, with whom we have worked a lot, hand in hand, over the past few months, and who always teaches me that patience and perseverance is the key to work with youth. We always say that without any difficulties, it would not be the Youth for Entrepreneurship. Let me also thank the staff at the Chamber for their support throughout, and for being patient with me as well in going throughout all the details, because I can be very demanding at times. So, as we draw our curtains on this inspiring gathering, I am filled, as always, with an overwhelming sense of optimism and pride. The ideas presented today about such an important topic as spaces for youth in Gozo is something which offers all of us a lot of food for thought. I was impressed by the fact that while all of them had the opportunity to present something which would be simply profit-making, all chose something which has a positive social impact on the youth community in Gozo. So they chose not their self-interest, but the benefits their ideas would have on the community. And this is something that we as a business community need to learn from. And it is something that the Chamber will continue to work on in the future. What we have experienced in Gozo over the past few years shows that we need to revisit our values. And we have a lot to learn from this generation, which puts values above profit. We would be mistaken if we think that both are mutually exclusive. They are not. We can be profitable while putting values first. And with this type of attitude, everyone will benefit, not just the few. This is the attitude that we will continue to support and promote as a chamber. The commitment and dedication displayed by these young aspiring entrepreneurs today provides us with hope for the sustainable growth and prosperity of Gozo. Let us continue to nurture and support our young talents, providing them with the opportunities and resources that they need to flourish. And this is why I thank our partners sincerely for believing so much in this venture. And today I may announce that usually we used to give an award to those who would be first. But we are extending this also to the second and third participants because of the real achievement and the real input they put into this. And as we leave this gathering today, let us carry with us that spirit of collaboration, innovation, and resilience. The journey of entrepreneurship is surely one filled with challenges, but it is also a journey that holds the promise of limitless possibilities. Together, let us shape a future where the youth of Gozo continue to be the driving force behind a thriving and vibrant business community. But a business community which is more compassionate and puts its values above everything. Thank you.
Thank you. We now come to the end of our event today. I would like to thank you for your participation, even those who are following us online. We hope that you enjoyed yourselves, and especially for the youth involved, to have had a great experience. Thank you and good night.